Hello, guys. So just wanted to make another update video on my bleed EQ Elementalist, and I think this is probably gonna be my last video because I think the build is pretty much completed at this point. Um, Thus far, the build has been performing pretty well considering it was kind of a hipster meme build, and I think I've tweaked it enough to the point where there isn't really too much left for me to change in the build besides, upgrading um, stuff like the weapon. And I mean, the only stuff that's really left are really expensive upgrades. So let me just go over the mechanics again really quick. So the general idea of this build is um, it's a pure phys elementalist. So what we're doing is we're using pure physical damage to apply really massive bleeds, and on top of that, utilizing the node, whoops, utilizing the node Shaper of Flames over here that allows any damage, including the physical damage, to ignite. So you're kind of double dipping in that sense. And the way we scale both damages by utilizing stuff that increases damage with ailments, since ignite and bleed are both considered ailments. And we take these medium cluster jewels that have general damage over time multipliers so that it scales both the bleed and ignite damage over time multiplier. And we're avoiding stuff that has, stuff like this fire damage over time multiplier or like bleed damage over time multiplier. Since it's only scaling one specific one, we avoid taking those. So the end result, the conclusion that I've drawn is that, scaling both does work, but it's better if you just scale one. And this is just my conclusion based off of having previously made an ignite build for Fireball and for Burning Arrow and for making a bleed build for Gladiator. But with that being said, the build does not perform poorly at all. So let me pull up the POV over here. Yep, so this is the latest import of my character. So if I can expand this out a little bit. Okay. And you can see over here that the total DPS is about 1.3 million. And this is actually accurate to my character right now. And, off of one tick, it's 11 million, which don't pay too much attention to that because the bleed duration is like 8.7 seconds. So you're not gonna. But that's one of the cool things about this build is that you can kind of just like slam an earthquake, and all you have to do is really just kite around and avoid hits and such. And the character itself is very tanky, so you don't have to. It's not like you're living on the bleeding edge because you have a ton of regen, a lot of armor, a lot of defense mitigation. It's a very, very strong build in that sense. And let me take a look over here just to verify. And we can see on the configuration, it is Shaper Guardian, and we're utilizing Elemental Equilibrium since we're hitting them with lightning damage. And the person is shocked. They're shocked and chilled due to the skitterbots that I'm running. And they are moving as well to do the weapon swap configuration that I have set up, which let me just go over that as well. So yeah, I made a lot of tweaks and adjustments to this build to try to maximize the damage as much as possible. And I think that this can be said for almost any bleed build, but it's a really good idea to run a weapon swap with an ensnaring arrow, which is essentially what I ended up doing. And I think it's a great idea to do that because ensnaring arrow provides the ability to always make the opponent consider to be moving, and that's a huge DPS boost for bosses. So if we can go back to the POV over here, I'll just show you what happens when I tick off the moving versus not moving. Yeah, so you see the dot DPS goes to about 580k, and yeah, it more than doubles the dot DPS based off of ensnaring arrow getting applied, which is a great boost. And since I wasn't running anything in my weapon swap anyway besides leveling some like useless gems, I decided to apply this. So quill rain, the main reason for that is because we don't care about the damage from here. We just want like fast attack speed. So what I'll do is
when I'm ready, and
I'll apply my slam, I'll switch it, ensnaring arrow, and then maybe blink away and then switch back. And the reason I kind of want to run away when I do the switch is because if you pay attention over here, the Fist of War does go on cooldown when you do it. Oh wait, shoot. I need to switch back over to P. Dang it, I messed up the video. Alright, let's try this again. So what you're gonna see is like I apply the ignite, I apply the slam, swap, attack, blink away, swap again. And you see over here that when I do the weapon swap, Fist of War goes on cooldown. So while I'm running away, waiting for it to recharge, I'll blink arrow away. So for this weapon setup, what I'm doing is I'm running Decay just to give it a little bit of extra damage, I guess, and ensnaring arrow, calling strike, so that I can finish it from a distance. Like let's say I know the boss is really low, I'll just shoot him with calling strike, and yeah, it'll do the trick. And GMP, which not really entirely necessary, but it does make it easier to hit from a distance. So like let's say I'm just like really far away, I don't like, maybe I just want to off screen the boss, I'll just shoot a couple of GMPs direction, so I don't have to be ultra precise. The quiver is just a whatever quiver. Like I just had this quiver in my stash. I took a look at all the different quivers on the market, what you could craft, and the unique quivers, and I didn't really see anything in particular that stood out to me as worth running on the setup. So yeah, this is just here to make sure that my resistances stay capped, although I wasn't getting any resistances from the weapon to begin with. Yeah. So let me explain the rest of the gear then. The helmet itself, it's a +2 minion helmet, and all you really need is a +2, but the ideal helmet that I'm trying to craft, I believe, is a +3 elder helmet. So I want to eye level 86 so that I could get +3 minion gems, and I would ideally like it to be supported by minion life as well. And the entire purpose of that is just to make my golems a little bit tankier. And it's not that important to get them tankier because they will die eventually anyway. But the thing is that with the ascendancy, this one over here, they get resummoned after they die, and it works perfectly fine. You hardly ever notice that they're dead, but they are dead sometimes for 4 seconds at a time, and during those 4 seconds, that's like the window where you're kind of vulnerable, right? So by making these minions more tanky, by increasing the level and having it supported by minion life, that would reduce the windows that are occurring. The armor itself, it's just a normal 6-link whatever skill, and I just put this, I crafted on the soul gain prevention with, since I'm using Val Molten Shell, and whenever I pop Val Molten Shell, once it's popped, I have like an additional 3k armor, and it's, yeah, it works out pretty well. Because I previously crafted like increased armor on this, and it was okay. It took me about 1500 armor, but I think with this on, since my Val Molten Shell is has a pretty long soul gain prevention period, I usually always have my extra 3k armor up. So in actuality, my armor is like 4k, I guess you could say. And I have I switched out my Molten Shell. I removed the cast 1 damage taken on Molten Shell and applied it to my left click. Before I used to have Vortex on here, but I removed that, and I was also previously running Determination. I removed Determination and I applied Summon Skitterbots instead, and I put Anomalous Summon Skitterbots just to increase the AoE of the Shock Aura and the Chill Aura, and I support them with Bone Chill and Unbound ailments. if I was going to remove bone chill and unbound ailments, maybe I would slot in something like uh, flesh and stone or blood and sand instead. Though I don't really feel like it's necessary, especially since I'm running. Yeah, I did a number crunch. It's not that great. The reason I'm using Cyclopean Coil here is primarily because it's the best item to run for damage, since it increases my attributes, and the attributes also it also increases the damage based on the lowest attribute. And the only other item that you'd want to run here that's better than this is, I mean, unless you need the resistances or something, which I don't, would be Bristlothless Coil. And the issue with Bristlothless Coil is that it's about 6 exalts. And Aberrith Hooves, this we're running because it chains off the ignites and helps a lot with the map clear. And it's a really, really great item, to be honest. I looked into a lot of different things, and I finally decided like this is just the best in slot for this build because it just makes the quality of life for mapping so much nicer. And there isn't really anything better that I would want to run here besides for bossing, like maybe it's just like a boot that makes me tankier. But with that being said, I also run in here a combination of Hex Touch with Combustion and Vulnerability. Since Aberrant's Fury, the skill itself, if I walk nearby a boss, I can trigger off. Since I have a 100% chance to ignite, when the Aberrant Fury ignites them with the combustion support, it also drops their fire resistance by -19. And it also applies a vulnerability curse, which makes the ailments deal damage faster, and it also increases bleed chance, which isn't that important. I also have Blink Arrow here just for my weapon swap, since I didn't want to pay for a 6 link. I was being cheap about it. The 6 link Quill Rain was like something like 80C, and the 5 link was like 5C. So I was just like, well, I don't want to pay an extra 75 chaos just to run this thing. Though I could put it here too, but hey, whatever. Not important. Not a big deal. Herald of Purity with Circle of Guilt really boosts up the damage quite a bit, and for the amulet I allocated Measured Fury just to save myself the skill points of having to travel over here, because this does point for point increase your damage by the largest factor, and you're applying a massive bleed from having an extra point in Measured Fury. Let me see over here. And yes, the Forbidden Taste Quartz Flask, that was done primarily to, I mean, it's better than a Seething Flask in my opinion. It also gives me phasing, which turned out to be pretty nice actually, to have phasing. Primarily because when I'm using it for delve, I'll like turn on the Val Earthquake over here, and I'll just run through everything, and everything just insta dies having phasing. So and I don't get blocked by the units, which is a pretty nice quality of life. But anyway, this thing, I essentially go back to full life by popping this once, and I don't have to worry about the chaos degen because I have a 69% resistance to damage over time from chaos, and I also have a ton of life regen. So as you can see over here, when I do pop it, my life does drop. Like it is degenning, but I'm regenning much faster than the degen, so it doesn't really even affect me. My life's not dropping from it. This is pretty much just for the corrupted blood. I just have it there for bleeding and curse immunity, and this is my armor flask. All I did was I rolled the extra armor effect on it, and I used the Harvest Crafting Station to reroll the suffix and make it lucky so that I could get as close to 100% as possible. And same with this one, I rerolled the suffix on this to make the movement speed much higher. So I'm just waiting for a prefix reroll so that I can get this up to 20, which again, not that important. That's pretty much the end of the build for me. If you guys are curious, I'll upload like a mapping video at a later time, but But the POV itself will be included in the description, and hopefully, you guys get some inspiration or ideas from this build, because I definitely enjoyed playing it. I will probably continue playing this build for a bit longer and possibly re-roll to a different character, something without AoE, primarily because I would like to do my challenges, and some of these challenges require like better single target because or not damage over time. Some of these encounter bosses, it's been very difficult for me to try to complete them because you know you apply a big bleed and you can't just like stop the damage when the boss is about to die and wait for them to apply their skill. It's very annoying. So probably gonna reroll soonish in order to make a character to do that. Uh, but overall, I do recommend the character. It's very fun. The damage is good enough that you could um, pretty much finish the whole game with it. That's what I did. Um, and it's definitely a unique playstyle. As for changes and optimizations, you know, you could take the build in a lot of different ways. I don't really have any particular recommendations for that. Like, you know, you could go the golem route or maybe run double cluster jewels instead of just one. Um, but anyway, it's up to you. That's it for me then. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to you when I get a chance. See ya.